welcome back to the Fruit Basket Podcast, where today it's just gonna kind of be a rambling episode. I really don't have anything serious planned. There was news to cover at all. I was thinking about covering the Daredevil Born Again, the new episode, but I'm gonna wait till hold off like a review of it until the show is all the way done. I just wanted to do what I did last week, where I talked about it just as like a first impressions to see where I am. I will say though, before we get into the topic of the podcast itself, I will talk on it a little bit, the new episode. Just for a short bit, and all I gotta say is that it was really good. I think it fixed a lot of the problems that I had with the show with the first two episodes. Hopefully they can keep up the same energy with this episode going forward, but we just have to wait and see. But moving on to the main focus of this episode, this one will probably be a short one. Just because it's not one that I didn't think about what I was gonna say going into it. Usually I try to kind of estimate how long a video might be with what I have to say. But with this one, it's just kind of a rambling one with one central topic, and it's mostly based around the Lilo and Stitch trailer that came out, the live action remake that is coming out in theaters. And the first trailer just dropped, and I just gotta say that I am just so tired of remakes. And look, I love Lilo and Stitch. I remember watching that movie many, many times. I don't understand why. I don't understand the appeal of wanting to see a live action Lilo and Stitch at all. If you want to see Lilo and Stitch, just watch the original movie. I don't understand the whole excitement or the need from companies to be like, why don't we just remake all of our original, all of our older stuff, our animated stuff, and let's just make it live action and make it look worse. I never wanted to see The Lion King, but with realistic lions. It's that sort of shit. I don't understand the appeal of live action remakes. I really don't. I understand adaptations of something with comic book movies being hey, let's put this stuff on the screen, or at least adapt it into a movie. But when you have something that's already a movie, why do you want to remake it? Especially if you're not going to do anything that different. It also just, it doesn't look bad. That's the thing too. Stitch looks good. I think my only problem was with Pleaky. I believe it's Pleaky, right? The skinny one, the skinny alien, and how he looked when his disguise wore off. Also, they're definitely changing some bits from the original movie, but for the worst. In the original movie, if you've seen it, the two, God, I'm always terrible at remembering their names, but the two aliens who are hunting down Stitch, they basically dress in drag. Well, not drag. Pleaky does. Pleaky dresses in drag, but then, the big guy, he just puts on a fake mustache. They wear disguises. They don't have technology that disguises them, but they're changing that for the movie, that they have a piece of technology that allows them to look like people. And I just hate that. Just taking all the fun out of it, just to be oh no, they're just they can just look normal. To me, that's just, it sucks. It really does. Nothing I saw from this trailer was just yeah, this makes me want to watch this over the original animated movie. I don't understand the appeal, and that's the thing. It's not just with Lilo and Stitch. There's a live action Snow White coming out that looks terrible. That also features Gal Gadot. There's the live action, the heavy in quotations live action Lion King movie that I mentioned earlier. I don't understand it. I just don't. It's wanting to see Looney Tunes, but live action. And they've done those. But even then, Bugs and Daffy, they look like cartoons. They're still cartoons. They're not oh, no, we're trying to make them look insanely live action. I don't even think that's what they did with Space Jam 2, even though they did change up the animation a bit. But it's not just movies that I'm kind of sick of getting remakes nowadays. It's also kind of video games too. And this really has nothing to do with and I'm not talking about the Final Fantasy VII remake, because that's very different in the way that that works. The way that they made the game, they essentially switched it up a bit. I understand remaking that in a sense. Also, my problem with video game remakes is that instead of just re-releasing the game, they do these remakes and shit like that. For mostly recent games. Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, the Insomniac Spider-Man had a remaster a year or two after it was released. It had a remaster just so they could change the appearance of Peter's model. That's it. Unless, I don't know, any of the other changes were just so small it didn't even matter. But they still had an entire remaster of the game. They re-released the game. I hate that. Same with like the Last of Us remakes. Like they haven't even come out that long ago, and they already have remakes. Same with the fucking Batman. When Batman Arkham Asylum and Arkham City got remade, or whatever, the Return to Arkham editions of it, which were kind of supposed to be like a remaster, I believe. Like, it was cool because they at least included all the DLC and shit like that, but it's just like, I don't understand the constant need for being like, hey, we need to remake this, we need to remaster it. And look, again, I said this for Final Fantasy VII, I kind of give a pass, but, and like games like that, like being like, hey, let's kind of like redo these older games in more of a modern game sense, because yeah, Final Fantasy VII, even though I do believe like, these companies need to try to re-release games, especially with games that like you can't really get a hold on that much. Like, I think, with the gaming industry, they're so obsessed with making money. I am almost surprised that they don't do that. Just be like, hey, let's re-release some of these games, but like on a new port. Like, let's make a, updated console or system port for these older games. Because like there is just so many games that like are impossible to get your hands on that easily could be released if like the industry wanted them to. But they just don't. They would rather just, remaster the same games over and over again. And this is like the same way that I feel about like yearly releases. To me, those are just essentially like remasters of like the games that came beforehand, like with Call of Duty, the Assassin's Creed games for a period of time until they changed up the format and then did that over again. What other games? The 2K games, obviously, they're essentially just remasters. They're essentially just updates of the older games. And look, I'm not one to talk because I also like get every WWE 2K game when it comes out. I'm currently playing 2K25 WWE, and it's really fun. There's a lot of updated shit that's really cool in that game, but like at the same time, it could have just been, like an update. It could have just been them like updating a few things. But overall, I'm so enjoying it. Like, even that, I will admit, even my disdain for remakes, there are times where I even partake in that. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I still, can't voice my criticisms of it. I don't really know what else to say. I just feel like we're in this time frame right now where everything's getting remastered, everything's getting remake, that it almost feels impossible to like really watch any like truly original content anymore. Like everything that's just like original or new, either it, in my opinion, gets overhyped, like Soul Leveling, that anime that came out, the solo leveling anime. I watched the first episode and I was just like, I don't get what the hype is. And here's the thing, that's just the first episode. I could have watched more, but I have other shows I want to watch, and every time I see anything of it, it's just like, hype moments. But even then, it's still like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna watch this. It just kind of looks like it looks cool, but it's not. I'm not invested enough into the hype moments to get me to watch it. Currently, I'm trying to watch through Demon Slayer, and I'm one episode away from finishing the Mugen Train arc. But yeah, like any original stuff that comes out now, I feel like it's just just like some overhyped stuff like Solo Leveling, or just it is cool stuff. It just doesn't get talked about that much. It just kind of flies under the radar, and it's not until later where people are just like, oh man, this thing was so good, but people just didn't like watch it or talk about it. And I feel like that's because like everything that comes out now, it's either like an adaptation or something else. It's either a remake or remaster, or that's really it. Like Invincible is just an adaptation of the comic, and that's been cool. Season 3 was awesome, the last few episodes, but that's still an adaptation, not like an original work. You have all the Marvel, DC shit, that's all adaptations, and there's even some independent stuff like Invincible that gets adapted. You have like Disney movies. Again, you just have like remakes of Disney movies. That feels like the only real stuff that comes out anymore. And there's obviously like, original shit that does incredibly well too. Well, not even Mickey 17 did well, did it? So I guess I was wrong. Not even Oppenheimer and Barbie. Oppenheimer was just like, it's not a documentary. It's just like, a historical film. And then Barbie, it's obviously a franchise movie. But like, what's like the last thing that came out that was like, I guess not Black Myth Wukong. Not even that's like an original creation because it's based off like Journey to the West. I don't know. Like, what's the last like truly original thing. And obviously, everything borrows from something. Someone's original idea is obviously based on previous works that inspire them in some sense. But I'm just saying, like, has there been something recently that isn't just based off of like something else, like an adaptation, like a direct adaptation, or just a remake or remaster? I guess Elden Ring. I mean, Dark Souls is obviously a franchise, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's still like its own thing. Like Dark Souls is an adaptation of something else. I could be wrong. I don't know that much about Elden Ring or the Dark Souls franchise to really say anything. Let me see. Okay, it was made by George R. Martin, but I mean that's he created Game of Thrones, and that's his original creation. God damn, I'm literally looking up like Dark Souls to see if it was like based off anything, if it was like a fucking like a recreation or an adaptation of anything. It's not. But when I looked up to see, Dark Souls, if it was based on anything, I looked at like the little info thing that they show you on Wikipedia, like right here, and it said first release Dark Souls, latest release Dark Souls Remastered 2018, 7-year difference, and they remastered it. Like, I understand for games that are just like, over like 2 decades old or something like that. Like, I understand remaking that, but like it's not even a decade and you're already remastering the game. I don't get it. And I've had this conversation with one of my friends, and he's just like, oh, I don't really care all that much, shit like that. But I'm just like, to me, it's just so stupid, because it's just, you could just re-release the game. Like, I understand wanting to upgrade it for like certain consoles in a way, but at the same time, like, I hate getting into the conversation of like graphics and shit like that, because like I feel like that's mostly the reason why they do it. But at the same time, I feel like some of the appeal of playing older games is the fact that they are older games. To me, I feel like that appeal kind of goes away when you strip some of that like oldness from it, when you try to like correct. Like, I understand correcting like abysmal errors, obviously. Like, if a game is just not like that playable because of how old it is, like there are some older games that are just like, hard to go back to, because like even like compared to some modern games of like a similar genre, they can be unplayable just because the controls weren't that well made, because back then they were still trying to figure stuff out. But at the same time, I understand like quirking it, but to try to just like change little things that I don't really feel like matters, like updating graphics all that much and shit like that, to me it's just pointless. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to see a remake of like, I'm trying to think of an older game, like I don't know, like Devil May Cry, or like the original Resident Evil games. I kind of like that look of like, oh, these are like really, like at this point they're really old games and they have that look to them, and I kind of like that, like the older look that like Resident Evil or Devil May Cry has. I do like whenever I get to go back and play those games, that older look to it. And the controls in that game and those games are wonky. I would like to those get refigured. But I don't know. I feel like I'm just rambling, but that's what this episode's for. I might as well just end it here. I don't think I really have much else to say that I haven't already said. I just think, Hollywood, the video game industry, shit like that, they need to slow down on the remasters and remakes. Like, I feel like a decade should be like the time limit when it comes to remaking or remastering anything. And obviously, some of this Disney remakes, obviously that's the case. Like, they're mostly done, a decade or two afterwards. But at the same time, I feel like the other benchmark needs to be, do you need to remake it? And most of the time it's a no. Like, you do not need to remake Lilo and Stitch. You do not need to remake The Lion King. You do not need to remake Insomniac Spider-Man 2 years after it was released. You don't need to remake or remaster Dark Souls when it's only been 7 years since the first game came out. Like, games are games are never going to be perfect in the future. Like, games now, there could be games that are flawless that come out now. 10 years in the future, they're not gonna be. Like, shit gets older, technology improves, but it's still nice to have some of those older games with their imperfection. Like, I don't know. Guess I'm just blabbling on, but I think I'll just end it here. Hello everyone, thank you for watching today's video. If you would like to see more videos like this, please leave a like and subscribe down below. If you'd like to check out my main channel, where I mostly talk about politics and more serious issues, you can check me out on my main channel, Fruity Soar. Or if you'd like to see me play some video games, you can check out my gaming channel, Fruity Soar Gaming, to see me play through video games. Thank you once again for watching today's video, and I will see you all next time.